St. Petersburg, the great former capital of Russia and one of the few major Russian cities located in any proximity to a bottom of water. It owes its name to both the famous Peter the Apostle and the late Tsar Peter Alexeyevich. Just yesterday, February the 8th of 1725, our beloved Tsar passed away, leaving no declared heirs and his wife Catherine. We've been tracking the local and national response to the Tsar's death, conducting a thorough reading of the public attitude, including taking to the streets to interview the populace.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely. Many people have commented on the Europe-like reforms made by Peter, and I believe I know why he made those reforms. It all goes back to his childhood. When Peter was born, he was the 14th son of Tsar Alexis and of his second wife. That meant that Peter was not at all in the running, but most of his siblings and his half-siblings died in childhood. So when his father died, his older half-brother, Fyodor, was made king. When he died shortly afterwards, Peter was chosen by the boyars, or the noblemen, to become the new Tsar. Unfortunately, the Streltsy, or the Royal Municipal Guard, revolted, along with some of his half-siblings from the other first marriage. This resulted in Peter being forced to rule with his half-brother Ivan. This basically led to Peter being ousted, and he was forced to move to the part of Russia where all the foreigners lived. And because of that, he was brought up amongst European culture, leading to his lifelong love and eventual reforms in the European style. In 1689, his mother forced him to marry Yudovica Lopigina, his first wife. His marriage wasn't happy, and he eventually forced her to live in a convent. His first son by her was eventually suspected of plotting to overthrow him, so he was eventually imprisoned and died under mysterious circumstances. He then married a commoner, who survives him still, Catherine I. His former wife still lives in the convent. He had never really been in the best of health. He had suffered from various illnesses throughout his life. A couple months ago, he dove into a frigid river to save some soldiers from drowning, and I suspect that contributed to his death. Always happy to help.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely. Well, to start, there's this Europeanization of the country, where we previously had our long beards according to Russian tradition. Peter personally cut them off. Anyone outside of his court had to pay a fine to keep their beards. We were forced to wear French clothing and our other foreign styles of dress, rather than our beloved Russian garb. Another change he made was to adapt our writing language to be more like the Europeans. He also changed our calendar from the old Russian calendar to the Julian calendar. These, along with his military campaigns, required a lot of new taxes, which made the poor even poorer. To finance his reforms and his vast campaigns, Peter levied many new taxes upon the Russian people. He taxed everything he could, from beehives to beers to families. He even taxed Russian males for having souls. Along with everything else he did, the Tsar also made our government more secular and really separated the church from state. Among his other changes, he replaced the head of the church, the patriarch, with his own religious ruling group, the synod. And he removed the boyars, the nobles, special privilege, instead of creating a ranking system based on merit. Indeed. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Pleased to be here.
Can you please tell us a bit about your thoughts and experiences with the previous campaigns?
Sure. The first campaign that I participated in was in the Ozaf campaigns. When he was first attempting to expand Russian borders to the Black Sea. Before Peter's reforms, our army was pretty much disorganized, and mostly regulated to the Streltsy Red. And so that was all he could really use. As a part of the treaty with Poland, he was forced to wage war against the Ottoman and the Turks to take control of the fort of Azov. We were defeated, unfortunately, but Peter reattacked with 30 ships and successfully took the fortress. After that, Peter made peace with the Ottoman Empire.
So a victory for Peter's reforms, right?
I would say so. One of the harshest reforms was in his return from the Great Embassy. In 1698, to repress the Stretchies' rebellion, he massacred about 1,200.
I remember. It was quite gruesome.
Yeah, they attempted to disband as much as the Stretchies as possible. After he made peace with the Turks, Peter returned his sights to achieving more control over the Baltic Sea, and so he launched a war against the Swedish. You know, we hate the Swedish.
Yeah.
And so we know now that this is the Great Northern War. That's what we call it. So we were easily destroyed at the Battle of Narva. After that, Sweden engaged in the battle with Poland. Also gave us time to kind of regroup and attack. So his reinforcements, and we eventually fought them until the Swedish king Charles the 12th was forced to gain back the Black Sea in 1697. Eventually, though, more campaigning and Charles' death, we gained large amounts of land in Finland and the Baltic Sea, ending the war with the Treaty of Nystad. Thank you for your time.
And finally, we interview our cameraman, Nikolai Seminole. Can you give us your thoughts on this past interview?
Well, I personally followed along the Azov campaigns to help report on the battles that took place. And I can full-heartedly confirm that Victor and Oleg said about Peter's military forays. I believe that the reforms produced by Peter will inspire other nations to follow along, such as the mandatory education, government intervention in matters of religion, the borders drawn by countries, and more.
Do you think these reforms will have long-standing effects?
Yes, they almost definitely will change the way Russia conducts itself.
Thank you for your time and your thoughts, sir.
Thank you.
Have a blessed day.
You too.